So in this next video we're going to add in some cameras and get our track 360 degree view around. So for this I'm going to just quickly delete this character now. I can get him back from one of the other tutorials, and I'm going to put my character into the center of the scene. So I'm going to push 0, it should move everything there, and I'm just going to pull him or her, I'm not quite sure what gender this is at the moment, down to the bottom. So we'll just go to the front, I'll just put them down to around there, and I'm just going to modify these transformations. And our directional lights, again, it won't matter too much about where they're positioned, because they go infinity in either direction, but obviously I do want to just keep things all nice and central. Probably some kind of OCD. I'll just keep that in there. So yeah, right, so what we're going to do is just pull them up, get it nice and clean. So for with our cameras, so we do have, there are sort of 3 types of cameras that we can focus on, which are, if we go to create and go to camera, you'll see these 3 here. So the first one we have is a camera. The good thing about this is they actually look like cameras, which obviously is the first help in identifying what these are in the scene. And we can reposition that, we can rotate that from every angle. There's no sort of fixed point of where it's looking and where it's going. We have control. We can rename this as camera 3. And if we go to panels, perspective, you'll see our camera has appeared in this list. So if we go camera 3, we can turn around and look at, look anywhere, and I'll reposition our camera from the viewport. Now the only issue with this is going to be that, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, it's taking it back to 0. The thing that's going to be the main issue here is if we move this tab, you can see what's in the view changes. So we don't actually see what our camera has within its periphery. So we can turn on what's called the film gate, and it's this little icon right here. It's like a little circle, little blue circle in a black square, or black rectangle I should say. And this tells us exactly what's going to be in our film, what camera we're using. So let's just rename that again, because obviously I did undo. And what scale, what pixel rate that is. Okay, so that's fine, but what we want to do is actually explore some of the other cameras. So let's go back to perspective, and we can go to camera aim, and if we move this out, you will see that the camera this time has a aim attached to it. And what this means is the camera will look at what will always face, the camera lens will always face where this point is. So if we want to focus on our character, we can place that into the middle, and obviously it's quite difficult within this free view to sort of see where things are. So if you bring that across down and bring that in, the camera is now facing the character, and so it's locked. So you can move the camera as well, and wherever you move it to, it will always face that point. And again, we can do the same thing, we can view through it. So if we go camera and aim, and if we go to panels, we'll see camera and aim in that list as well, and we can turn the film gate on for this, and we can see what's within it. Okay, as you can see, the values are locked to that point on the camera once you select it, and the center of interest, so you can't actually edit those from the camera. Okay, you are stuck there. So the final camera is camera aiming up, and again this is a similar sort of setup, with the exception this time that along with the aim, we can also sort of rotate the camera as well. So if we pull this across, the camera turns. So if we go to camera 2, you can see if we want to get a rotation of the face, that would be the camera to use. I'm happy for you to experiment with different shots. So some people have already asked me about having two different cameras shot side by side within their final rendered video, I'm perfectly happy for you to do that. Again, if you want to go for some different angles, you're also permitted to do so. So one thing we're going to do with camera I would like you to use at this point in time, I'm just going to get the outliner up because I want to just delete this camera here, and I don't need the free camera either. You can experiment with the free camera, but for this one we're going to use our, where are we, there we go. So let's just select that group and we'll move all of it out for a second. We're going to actually use this as to create our 360 degree view. So this point here needs to be on 0 in these 2 points. That is not 0 in our physical space. So let's just delete, in fact let's just delete that, we'll create another one. And so we'll go camera and aim. So what we need to do is just pull, if we get our aim, and that's on -5, so we put that at 0, now it is at 0, and if we pull this camera back, we'll be happy. So first thing we're going to do is change our timeline. So this is our animation timeline, okay, time slider, and this is the time slider, that's the timeline, and our time slider goes up to 200. I'm going to change this to 360 and then expand this out to 360, and that's because we're going to create a circle and our camera is going to go around that circle, and we want it to be have an equal distribution, so the maths has to add up. So if we do one frame at 1 degree, we should get a nice smooth camera turnaround. Okay, so if we go to curves and surfaces from here, we can also go to create and go from up there, but I think from up there, but we're not going to do that. We are going to go to this circle shape here, and as you can see it's made one in the middle. So we're going to go to our inputs, which is on the channel box, and we're going to go to radius, and we're going to expand that out. Okay, it goes to 10 by default. Let's try 20. Okay, probably let's try 40. There we go. I think in fact let's try 30 in the middle there. It's probably a little bit, yeah, perfect looking at, and that's pretty much where my camera is. So what we're going to do is attach our camera to this circle, and what will happen is it will divide the space around this circle along our timeline to animate. So we're going to select the camera. I'm just going to reposition the circle as well. In fact, actually, we'll start it here. Yeah, because I want to do some animating. We'll get the circle moving up as the camera turns around the body. So what we will do is we will select the camera. We will then select the curve by holding shift, so both objects are selected. We will change this to our animation menu set. So you can see up here it's now changed. We're going to go to constrain. We're going to go down to motion paths and attach to motion path. So we're going to, as that's starting there, we're going to rotate our circle around 180 degrees. And as you can see, if we push play, the camera starts to move around that circle. Okay. Now this is okay, but what we need to do is first check our frame rate that it's playing back at. So if we go to this little man at the bottom here with a little circle above him, what I want you to do is make sure you're on 24 frames per second, okay, within this playback speed, okay, and click save. That will ensure that when you preview your animation that it's running at the right speed. So we're going to go into our camera, so we'll go down to go to camera 1, put this on 1, and we need to put the film gate on so we can see what we're filming, okay, and what we're going to do is play our view. So again, we're starting off really slow. There's a bit of a jitter in there, which is a bit strange. It might just be the playback of the sequence where it's calculating the movement. So The thing to remember here is it's starting off really slow, it's then speeding up and 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 then slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. That's because the all the animation is built through curves, okay? So if we go click this object down here, it will take us directly there. But if we go to Window and go Animation Editors and go to the Graph Editor, sometimes known as the Curve Editor, and if we go to Panel, Perspective, View, and select our camera, what you'll see is that you won't see it very well there, it just looks like a flat line. But if we push this section here, it will frame the curve in relative to its size, to the inputs. And you'll see this is it easing out, coming up to equal speed, and then easing back in. So if we select both of those curves, we'll see that these tangents, and we can manipulate those to change the speed. And as we come to the animation part of the project, we'll go into that into more detail. At this point, we just want to change these flat tangents, so when they're going straight across, they're known as flat tangents, which are this section here. If we go to this one here, which is our linear tangent, that space and time is divided equally. Okay, so if we close that off and we go to perspective and go to camera 1, we should now find, so ignore the jittering, the final render should be fine. This is obviously just because it's a preview. And you can see we're now going around at a much more equal speed. Okay, which is pretty cool. So the last thing we need to do is I'm going to have this rising up as we go along. So I'm going to take the curve and I'm going to keyframe at 0 the object. So you may find some videos use S. The problem with S is it keys everything, which means you lose control. So don't push S. We're going to teach you to animate by individually setting each individual key. So we key select and we go over to 360, and so we do that and translate Y. We know that because the arrow is pointing up, it's green, and if we move it, that value will change, as you can see. So what we're going to do is just move up to the head, move it slightly above, so we'll say 15 as a nice round number, and we'll key select that. Now you can see if we go back to play this, camera 1, you will see as it goes round, it just focuses on the feet, and that's because of the camera aim. Okay, so what we're going to do is bring our camera aim up as well as we move up. Okay, so we're going to stop there, we're going to go to panel, perspective, and we're going to take find our point here, there we go, and we're going to again key select that, and I'm going to take this to 13 as opposed to 15 just to give it a bit more of a dynamic angle at the last frame. But let's check what that last frame looks like. So I'm wondering if we take it to 12, what about 8? Okay, probably too much there. Let's try 10. Let's try 9. So we can try and get the head and the feet in there. Let's try 8.5. Look at that, perfect. So we're going to end with that full view of the character. I'm then going to add, so sorry, yeah, as well, just the reason we have 360 is it will set the distribution to whatever the time slider has, so the camera will only move around for wherever the time slider is. Did we not set that perspective, the camera aim? Ah, that's really annoying. So if we go to camera aim, yeah, we set the last one, not the first one, so we go to 0 and right click, okay, selected. So the reason we did 360 is it will calculate the distribution of that under the constraint. So if when you attach it to the motion path, it will do whatever the time range is. But now we've done that, we do want a second to look at the character at the end. So I'm going to add in another 25 frames. So I'm going to go 85. So once we play through, so go to panel and camera 1. So as we play through, we'll have a second at the end to actually look at the character. So again, it's a bit bouncy because it's calculating it in the viewport actively, and you can see that rise that we're going to get out of our character. So again, I think that's pretty cool. So now we've set our camera. In the next session, next lesson, we're going to we're going to what do you call it? We're going to render out our character, this view, okay, it's for a video. So that will be the sort of final stage of your process for your submission in terms of the 3D. Okay. Yeah.